Ever imagine what lies beneath the floors of like a grand old library?
Ooh, that's a good one.
Today, we're diving into a secret space in the National Library of Scotland,
Oh,
a place nicknamed the Void,
interesting.
and it offers a portal back in time to the Edinburgh of centuries ago.
Wow.
So we'll be using excerpts from an article called Pasted Text
Okay.
to guide our deep dive today.
Okay.
And
Sounds fascinating.
yeah, this isn't just about some dusty old books.
Right.
We're going beneath the surface, literally,
Okay.
to uncover a piece of Edinburgh's history
Yeah.
that was almost lost to time.
Wow.
So it all started back in the 1990s
Okay.
with a library official making a truly incredible discovery.
Okay.
Just picture this. You're going about your day at work
Yeah.
when you find a small hatch
Oh.
hidden behind some filing cabinets.
Wow.
What would you do?
I'd have to open it, right?
Right. Well, that's exactly what former director Bill Jackson did.
He did.
Yeah. And he describes being met with total darkness
Oh, wow.
and this sense of the unknown
Yeah.
before stumbling upon a collection of artifacts just frozen in time.
What kind of artifacts?
Furniture, ledgers,
Yeah.
shoes,
Wow.
even a slate urinal,
A slate urinal.
all over 100 years old
Wow.
and soaked from years of water damage.
So they just stumbled upon this incredible time capsule.
It's amazing.
Wow.
It sounds like they struck historical gold.
Yeah.
So we have this incredible time capsule hidden right under the library.
Uh-huh.
But what makes the Void so special compared to other historical sites in Edinburgh?
Well, you see, the Void isn't just some random basement or
Yeah.
a storage room.
Right.
It's actually a preserved section of a street
Okay.
called Libberton's Wynd.
Libberton's Wynd.
Yeah, which was once a bustling hub in the heart of the city.
So instead of being like a museum that recreates a street,
Right.
this is a real street that just got paused in time.
Precisely.
Wow.
In the 1830s, the city decided to demolish Libberton's Wynd
Okay.
to make way for the Grand George IV Bridge.
Okay.
Eventually, the library was built right on top of this bridge, with the Void becoming trapped
Oh, wow.
between the bridge's walls and the library's lower levels.
So we're talking layers upon layers of history here.
Exactly.
And the article mentions that even though it's not as well known as other preserved streets like Mary King's Close, the Void offers a truly unique window
Yeah.
into a specific time period in Edinburgh's past.
Exactly. Think about it. This isn't a curated experience.
Right.
It's a raw, unfiltered glimpse
Yeah.
into the lives of everyday people.
Right.
The Void is like a snapshot of a community frozen in time,
Yeah.
capturing a cross-section of Edinburgh society that might otherwise be forgotten.
Now let's take a walk down this hidden street and see what it
Okay.
was like back in its heyday.
Right.
Where should we start?
To really understand Libberton's Wynd,
Yeah.
we need to start at the beginning,
Okay.
before it was paved over.
Okay.
This street was the main route
Yeah.
leading from the Cowgate area
Uh,
all the way up to the city gallows at the lawn market.
with the gallows. So
Yeah.
this street saw it all, from daily life
Yes.
to public executions.
Uh,
That adds a whole other layer to the story.
it certainly does. Imagine the crowds that would have thronged the street heading to witness these public spectacles.
Yeah.
It's believed that even notorious figures like William Burke,
Oh, wow.
infamous for his role in the Burke and Hare murders,
Yeah.
met their end at those very gallows.
So Libberton's Wynd wasn't just any street.
Right.
It was a thoroughfare steeped in history,
Yeah,
both the mundane and the dramatic.
exactly.
What else went on there?
Well,
Were there any notable landmarks or
Oh.
places people would have gathered?
you can't talk about Libberton's Wynd without mentioning Johnnie Dowie's Tavern.
Johnnie Dowie's Tavern.
Yeah, it was one
Yeah.
of the most famous establishments on the street.
If you were to step back in time and walk down Libberton's Wynd,
Yeah.
what would hit you first?
Oh.
The article mentions some pretty intense sensory experiences.
You would be met with a sensory overload.
Oh, wow.
Picture a narrow, winding street paved with cobblestones,
Yeah.
worn smooth by centuries of foot traffic.
Okay.
The air would be thick with the smells of wood smoke from nearby workshops,
Uh,
the scent of leather from the shoemaker's shop,
okay.
and the aroma of spices wafting from the merchant's stalls.
And amidst all this, a tavern appears.
Yes.
What was it like?
Before it was Johnnie Dowie's,
Yeah.
it was known as the Mermaid.
The Mermaid.
Picture a classic Edinburgh tavern
Okay.
with small, dimly lit rooms.
Okay.
Back then, taverns were the social hubs,
Right.
attracting people from all walks of life. Merchants, artisans,
Yeah.
even members of the judiciary.
So not just a place to grab a drink,
Right.
but a place to connect with people
Exactly.
from all parts of society.
Yes.
What can you tell us about this Johnnie Dowie?
He was quite the character, always impeccably dressed in a cocked hat,
Oh, wow.
with buckles on his shoes,
Uh-huh.
and never seen without his cane.
Okay.
The tavern was known for its Edinburgh ale,
Good.
brewed by Archibald Younger.
Okay.
It was described as quite potent,
Oh, wow.
a drink that could practically glue your lips together.
Okay, I am definitely picturing a lively atmosphere.
Yes.
So we've got a colorful landlord, a potent brew,
Uh-huh.
and a diverse clientele,
Yes.
including artists and writers.
Uh-huh.
It almost feels like a scene out of a novel.
It does, doesn't it?
Was there anyone famous who frequented Johnnie Dowie's?
It's said that the poet Robert Ferguson was a regular.
Oh, wow.
And if some rumors are to be believed,
Yeah.
Robert Burns himself might have even stopped by from
Oh.
time to time. Apparently his favorite spot. Yeah.
Was a tiny windowless chamber
Wow.
nicknamed the Coffin.
The Coffin.
Yeah.
How fitting for a place where stories and ideas were likely born
It is.
and shared. It's fascinating to imagine those conversations.
It is.
That creative energy flowing
Yeah.
in a space that's now hidden beneath a library
Right.
dedicated to preserving knowledge.
Yeah.
It's almost poetic, isn't it?
It is. It speaks to the layers of history.
Yeah.
And the unexpected ways the past intersects
Yeah.
with the present.
Yeah.
But Johnnie Dowie's wasn't the only thing
Right.
on Libberton's Wynd.
Yeah.
This was a bustling hub of commerce and daily life.
Right. We can't forget about the everyday folks
Yeah.
who lived and worked there.
Exactly.
What can you tell us about them?
Well, the article quotes a local historian
Okay.
named Jamie Korstrafine,
Okay.
who described stepping into the void as one of the most exciting experiences of his career.
Wow.
He explains that Libberton's Wynd was incredibly diverse.
With everyone from merchants and barbers to shoemakers and grocers.
Wow.
It even had a custom house, silver turners, and a glazier.
So it wasn't just a street, it was a microcosm of the city itself.
Exactly.
A place where people from all walks of life came together.
Exactly. And each of them contributed to the rich tapestry of Edinburgh's past. It really makes you wonder
Sure.
what stories these walls could tell if they could speak.
It's incredible to think that this entire world existed right beneath our feet,
Oh, no.
frozen in time. Okay, let's pause here for a moment and let that sink in.
Okay.
We've covered a lot of ground, from the accidental discovery of the void
Right.
to a glimpse into the everyday life
Yeah.
on the street that disappeared centuries ago.
It's amazing.
What stands out to you so far?
What fascinates me is the contrast between the grand, imposing structure
Yeah.
of the National Library of Scotland
Right.
and this hidden, almost humble street preserved beneath it.
Yeah.
It's pretty incredible.
Yeah, it really does make you think, doesn't it? This contrast, between the modern world above and this hidden gem below, it's like a secret whisper down through the centuries. This space frozen in time, holding on to the stories of everyday people who walked these cobblestones.
It's powerful, a reminder that history isn't just about kings and queens battles and treaties, grand libraries and bridges.
Right.
It's about the shoemaker hammering away in his shop, the merchant haggling over prices, the tavern keeper pouring a pint for a weary traveler.
We've been talking about the sights and the smells of Libberton's Wynd, but what about the sounds? Could you paint a picture of that for us?
Okay, close your eyes and imagine the clatter of horses' hooves on those cobblestones, the cries of street vendors hawking their wares, the murmur of conversations in multiple languages. You might even hear the hammering of the blacksmith or the sawing of the carpenter. It would have been a symphony of daily life, a constant hum of activity.
It's so easy to get caught up in the romanticism of it all. But I think it's important to remember that life on Libberton's Wynd wasn't always idyllic. This was still the 1800s. It was a crowded, noisy, and often dirty place. Disease was rampant. Poverty was widespread, and violence wasn't uncommon.
That's a great point. It's important to avoid romanticizing the past. The void offers us a glimpse into a bygone era, but we need to acknowledge both the light and the shadow, the joys and the hardships that shaped the lives of those who came before us.
It's about finding that balance, isn't it? Appreciating the allure of a lost world while also understanding that life back then was very different from today.
Exactly. The void isn't just a tourist attraction. It's a tangible reminder that history is messy, multifaceted, and full of contradictions, and I think that's what makes it so compelling to study.
We've been talking a lot about Johnnie Dowie's Tavern. It seems like it was quite the hub of activity. What do you think drew people to this particular establishment?
Well, it certainly wasn't the only tavern on the street, but I think Johnnie Dowie's offered something special. It was a place where people from all walks of life could gather, share stories, and perhaps escape the harsh realities of their daily lives. In a way, it was a microcosm of the street itself, a melting pot of society.
And it also seems to have been a place where creativity flourished. The article mentions that artists, writers, even members of the judiciary would gather there.
It makes you wonder what conversations were had over those pints of Edinburgh ale. Imagine the stories that were told, the ideas that were debated, the friendships that were forged within those walls.
And perhaps even a few poems were penned in that tiny windowless chamber they called the coffin. It said that Robert Burns himself might have been a patron.
It's incredible to think that such a humble space could have played host to such renowned figures. It really speaks to the enduring power of storytelling and the role that places like taverns played in fostering creativity and community.
The article mentions that the void isn't open to the public. It makes sense they need to protect this fragile piece of history, but it's almost like a hidden treasure, accessible only to a select few.
It does raise an interesting question, though. What should the future hold for the void? Should it remain a hidden secret, preserved solely for research and historical study? Or is there a way to make it accessible to the public while ensuring its preservation for future generations? It's a delicate balance.
That's such an important question, and it goes beyond the void itself. How do we find that balance between sharing history and safeguarding these fragile remnants of the past?
It's a conversation that needs to happen not just in Edinburgh, but in cities and towns all over the world. We have a responsibility to preserve these pieces of the past, but also to find ways to share them with the world.
We've been so engrossed in Libberton's Wynd and the secrets it holds, but we can't forget about the man who gave the street its name. What can you tell us about Henry Libberton?
Unfortunately, not much is known about him. The article mentions that he was a prominent resident of Edinburgh in the 16th century, but the details of his life remain shrouded in mystery.
It's intriguing, isn't it? This man whose name echoes through the centuries, yet whose story is largely unknown. It's like a missing piece of the puzzle.
It speaks to the vastness of history and the countless stories that are still waiting to be uncovered for every tale we manage to piece together. There are countless others that have been lost to time, but that doesn't mean we should stop searching.
It's almost like the void itself is a metaphor for history. We only see a fragment of what was made to, but even that fragment can offer us valuable insights and spark our imagination.
Exactly. And it reminds us that history is not just about grand narratives and famous figures. It's about the lives of ordinary people, their everyday struggles, their triumphs, their loves, their losses. It's about those individual stories that breathe life into the past.
We've been so focused on the past, but I'm curious, what lessons can we learn from the void and Libberton's Wynd that we can apply to our lives today?
I think it reminds us of the importance of community, of connection, of finding those places and spaces where we can come together and share our stories. It also reminds us that the past is always present, even in the most unexpected places.
So the void is more than just a hidden street. It's a reminder of the power of history to connect us to the past and to each other.
Exactly. It's a testament to the enduring spirit of human connection and the importance of preserving the stories that shape our world.
And what about the listener? What can they take away from this?
If we connect this to the listener's own life, it's an invitation to be curious, to explore, to look beyond the surface and see what stories lie beneath their feet.
So maybe we all have our own void waiting to be discovered. Maybe it's a hidden corner in our neighborhood, an old family photo album, or a story passed down through generations.
The key is to keep asking questions, keep digging, and keep exploring. You never know what fascinating stories and connections you might find.
Well said. I think it's time to shift our focus back to the void itself, this hidden world beneath the bustling streets of modern Edinburgh. We've talked about the sights, the sounds, and even the smells of Libberton's Wynd, but I want to get personal for a moment. If you could choose just one person from that time to have a conversation with, who would it be and why?
Oh, that's a tough one. There are so many fascinating people who walk those streets, but I think I'd have to go with John Dowie, the tavern keeper himself.
Johnnie Dowie, why him?
Well, think about the position he was in. His tavern was a crossroads for the entire community. He must have seen it all, heard all the gossip, witnessed arguments, celebrations, maybe even a few shady deals going down.
Right.
He'd be a gold mine of information about the real Libberton's Wynd.
He'd be like a walking, talking history book with a pint of Edinburgh ale in hand. I bet he could tell us so much, not just about the big events, but about the little details of daily life.
Exactly. And imagine the stories he could tell about the famous figures who frequented his tavern. Robert Ferguson, the poet, was known to be a regular. And then there's the persistent rumor that Robert Burns himself enjoyed a pint or two in the coffin, that tiny windowless chamber.
What do you think Johnnie Dowie would say if we could ask him what drew people to his tavern?
Well, back then, a tavern wasn't just a place to get a drink. It was the social media of its day. It was where people came together to connect, share news, and escape the realities of their lives for a while. I think Johnnie Dowie's tavern was special because it offered a sense of community, a place where everyone was welcome.
It makes me think about the role of community in our own lives today. We might not gather in taverns anymore, but that need for connection is still there.
Absolutely. And I think that's one of the biggest takeaways from The Void and the story of Libberton's Wynd. It's a reminder that even centuries ago, people craved connection and belonging just as much as we do today.
We've explored the void, this hidden street beneath a library. We've imagined the sights, sounds, and even the personalities of the people who lived and worked there. It's been quite a journey. As we wrap up our deep dive, what final thoughts would you like to leave our listeners with?
I think the biggest takeaway for me is a power of curiosity. It was curiosity that led that library official to open that hatch and discover the void in the first place. And it's curiosity that allows us to connect with the past, to learn from it, and to find inspiration in it.
So it's not just about uncovering physical spaces like the void. It's about uncovering the stories, the connections, and the insights that lie hidden all around us.
Exactly. The void is just one example of how the past can be preserved in unexpected ways. There are countless other voids out there waiting to be discovered. Maybe it's an old family heirloom, a forgotten story passed down through generations, or even a hidden corner of your own neighborhood.
So what you're saying is we all have a responsibility to be explorers in our own lives, to look closer, to ask questions, and to never stop digging for those hidden gems of history.
Precisely, history isn't just something you read in a textbook. It's alive and well all around us. And who knows, maybe you'll be the one to uncover the next void.
What a fantastic note to end on. To our listeners, thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the void. We hope you've enjoyed this journey back in time and that you'll continue to explore the hidden stories that surround you. Until next time, keep those minds curious and those eyes peeled for adventure.